Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Well, good evening, and thank you so much for joining me tonight. Tonight on Talking SIP on the Silburn Show, and I want to welcome you on this night, which is the 29th of April, 2022, and we're moving swiftly on to December. I don't want to say December, but yeah, we seem to be moving on. And thank you for those joining on Instagram. But just to let you know, for the Instagram bit, that's going to be shut off very soon. Because everything is going to be over onto the YouTube and the Facebook, which is the best place to see that. The Instagram is just more like a, what should I say, a shop window, but I'll let it be there. I don't want you to just see my face. You need to see the guest, the wonderful guest who is going to be on tonight as well. My face is not the face to be seen. And also on Facebook as well, and a slight bit on TikTok as well, which is going to be happening. Now, it's a very interesting program this evening, and the program is going to be about the youth voices in regards to the Republic. Jamaica on the quest to become a republic. This is something which has been spoken for a while now, for years, if anything. Actually, even maybe from 1962, maybe they have been speaking about this. But now we're at a point where it is to be a reality in the sense of the discussions. And I've done a few videos so far. I've done maybe my initial one, which was with Professor Rosalie Hamilton, who is one of the strong advocates for the engaging with the youths. I would say engaging with the youths. I say youth, but it's going to be a youth now, but engaging with people and getting everybody's voice in regards to this. And I've done a couple other vox pop, a couple other videos with like Matunda McCullough and former acting public defender in Jamaica, and just really having that sort of discussion. But tonight, what I really want to do tonight, I want to do something different. You know, I want to reach out to the youths, the young voices. I want to reach out to the youths tonight to hear what they have to say. You know, I'm thinking in a way, and the more I think about this, I coined something, and it makes sense to me, and I hope it makes sense to you. And it's like the weight of destiny is resting upon the youths. The weight of destiny is resting upon the people. And one of the things that, in regards to this quest for the new republic, is that every single Jamaican must somehow feel like they own this. They must feel like they own this. There are many times things have been happening in Jamaica, and even in politics, even in the UK or whatever like that, where people somewhat feel slightly a bit distant from the powers that be. And somehow they say, we can't bother. There's a favorite saying, we can't bother. Let them just do what they do, man, because we can't bother. But I want to say that something of this nature, something of this big magnitude, must not be, we can't bother. We must all bother. Because as someone says, and I'm going to have Miss Rosemary Francis, who's going to come on later, they say, a Fiwi. Yeah, a Fiwi Jamaica and a Fiwi. And therefore, it is very important. So tonight, I'm going to have various young persons. I'm going to have Shemar, who is going to be on tonight. I'm going to have Thara. I'm going to have Nadrika. I'm getting the name mixed up. And I'm going to get Asha as well. These are young people who I'll explain a bit more later. And they're going to come on tonight, and they're going to speak. And I'm going to ask them the questions. But most importantly, they are going to share their perspective in regards to Jamaica becoming a republic. And my TikTok, I posted a video the other day, and it's now, just yesterday, it's up to 5,000 views and in TikTok. And so many people are asking questions, you know. And if I just share a couple of the questions that people are putting there,
we've reached that stage.
It is at. Sorry, I'm just If I just share with it, walk and talk. At present, it's at 5,204 views. 5,204 views. Actually, it's 5,546 views. And some of the questions are like very appropriate for such a discussion. Moving from Britain to America. Someone said UIC all the way. You have to understand it's all about the power for them not to go. I think you guys should sit down and let us know more. That's very interesting. I was walking with Matunda, but we do have a sit down one. There's no benefit to have the king as head of state for many reasons. Do remember the PM did say this leadership is about pleasing himself. We, the people, are not privy to too much of the information, and we live in a technological age. It's a very cloak and dagger, not good. Nothing is wrong with our government structure. It's the brains we lack. My brain say adopt a Bitcoin. Someone says, sir, the conversation has started. Nobody's ramming. Plans are in place for a variety of debates. SS town halls across all strata, including schools. Someone says, government must not be appointed by politicians and their friends, but by the people, for the people. And there's so much more. But ladies and gentlemen, for Talk and Sip on a Saturday night, one of the things I always say, always ask persons, what are they drinking? And the whole concept of the Talk and Sip came out of the lockdown period, where we decided and say, let's have a drink or so and just have some chat with some friends. And what we did, we all came together. I sometimes drink a little red wine, but I try not to drink too much, you know. On most times, what I do is drink and have water, have sparkling water as well. And you can tell me like what you are drinking tonight. Yeah, what are you drinking? There we are. That's smashing talking sip Saturday night. Very interesting. And Sean Brown, interesting. We'll want to hear from them. Mark Taylor, Orange Pickle Hot. Can't wait to hear what the young people think. Okay, yeah. Well, I just want to put for the record that me a young smarty, I'm just 19 years of age plus 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 plus. But I'm gonna bring in Rosemary Francis Binder right now, just for her to share a bit about some of the work being done in Jamaica in regards to leading up to this Republic campaign. Okay, let me just check if, yep, back. Fantastic. Good evening. How are you?
Good evening. I'm fine, thank you, Silborn. How are you?
I'm not bad. I'm not bad. As I just started to talk to you, I just saw something saying my battery pack is very low. So you might have to just keep talking, and I'll just listen while I go and sort out my battery pack to make sure that I have no problem. How are you doing today, anyhow?
I'm doing very well, thank you. We've been very busy making sure that our May 6th event is going to be really hitting it off. We're meeting with Jamaicans all over Jamaica,
Yes.
talking with them to make sure we get the feedback of what they
I'm
want.
I'm I'm gonna stop you there for a second. If you can turn, I don't know if I know we discussed it earlier about your volume. Is your volume okay? Um,
My volume is fine. Are you
ah,
hearing me?
yeah, it just came up a bit earlier. Put something closer up. Did you just move your mic? It came up.
Yes, my mic is right here.
Yes, it's much better now. It's much better.
Okay, thanks. I
Yes,
just didn't want to wear a headset with my
yeah.
afro.
What I'm gonna do something. You explain what Theory Jamaica and the Advocates Network is. I'm gonna put you alone while I sort out my system here. Okay, there you go again.
Okay.
Yeah, go
No
ahead.
problem. Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk to you and your listeners from all over the world about what and who the Advocates Network is. Advocates Network is a group of non governmental um, organizations, people, individuals who come together to advocate for citizen participation in order to make sure that we achieve good governance in Jamaica and also for fair human rights. And so we've been doing a lot. We actually came together just about the point when we had that incident of the alleged minister who was involved in a altercation with someone, and that video went around. So we all came together then as a gender-based. Fighting against gender-based violence, and then since then we have been taking up a lot of issues again, which are encouraging Jamaicans to really participate to make sure that there's good governance, that there's fair human rights, and so on. And we have members not only in Jamaica, but also in other parts of the world, of course, in
What,
the diaspora.
what are you drinking?
Well, I am sipping some tea.
Tea.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. Well, the most important thing is that you're drinking something, Rosemary. Well, Rosemary, thank you so much the other day for having Professor Hamilton on. I kept saying doctor, and then somebody was saying to me today, Dr. Hamilton. They said, yeah, is she a doctor? Because you kept saying doctor. I said, well, she's a doctor. So they're following me now, calling her a doctor. But from that meeting there are a lot of people have been talking about the Republic and the quest. It, I know you said it a while ago, and I was sort of a bit distracted sorting out my thing. But
Hmm.
explain a bit about Fiwi, Jamaica, Fiwi Republic, and
Yeah.
Fiwi. Yeah.
Yeah, so we started this citizen participation campaign pretty much to encourage Jamaicans to get involved, to talk about the kind of a republic that they want to see for themselves, or whether or not, they want a republic or not, but basically to get the conversation going, so that they're involved, so that they are participating. A Fiwi republic,
Yes.
meaning we're taking ownership to it, or we're encouraging Jamaicans to take ownership to whatever is going to be, the republic that's going to happen. Now, what
Yes.
has been happening is we know that there is like, citizens are, there's an apathy with voting and what they think is politics and so on. But we are encouraging the dialogue, and it has really been phenomenal because people are talking. Our campaign encourages our network. We reach out to different groups, the churches in your community, the schools,
Mm,
teachers, everyone that's meeting with each other, families, to even in a small group have that conversation and answer some questions about whether or not they want a republic, etc.
yeah.
What are some of the things that are important to them? And so all of these points are going to be collected at our May 6th event. Then we'll see, after everything has been counted, or we put it all together, then we'll see what the results are. What are people talking about? And that is just the start.
Yeah. Let's talk about King Charles is going to be King Charles is going to be coronated shortly, and you're going to have this big event. And
Right.
let's talk about. I'll just put the flyer up there, May the 6th.
Right.
Um, if you
At St.
yeah,
Michael's College.
yeah, Fury Republic there. Yes. So what? Can you hear me? You can hear me? Yeah.
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you, Siborn.
You can see as well. Join us to discuss how you can participate in changing our constitution and shaping our. Break it down as to the May the 6th event, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m.
Right. So this event is, like we said, it's going to be at the St. Michael's College. People are registering to come. The groups that have met, all of their, when you sign in, when the groups register, this information goes to a statistical tool,
Yes.
where all their points that they have highlighted will then be compiled so that we can see, what are the main things people have said that they're talking about. We gave them 4 questions to answer, and what we've noticed, not only the questions that we've asked, but there are tons of other questions coming in. It's just, a start. And so all of that will be compiled so that we'll hear what people are saying. So the event, of course,
Yes.
is gonna see different people speaking. We're gonna introduce a network. We're also going to see feedback from the various groups reporting. People are going to get to know about a little bit about more about the Advocates Network also. And there will be a question and answer section, of course, because we can't have the event without making sure that we're getting participation. That's what we're
Yeah.
all about, encouraging citizen participation. Yes.
Let us bring in O'Neill Cross. How are you? O'Neill is my good friend and my co-host here tonight on the show, and he's all the way in the States. Original Jamaican from I don't know where you come from. Where you come from, O'Neill? Where you come from, Jamaica?
Certainly not Ocherius.
He's not from Ocherius.
Not
Best place.
Clarendon. Clarendon is
There
where
you
we
go.
are.
Clarendon, the best place.
How did you know he was from Clarendon?
Because
Rosemary.
we vibes. We vibe. We could feel it. Right? It's not like the Ochi people. We know when we're passing our people.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Rosemary, is it that you're trying to upstage King Charles coronation?
Not at all. Not at all. We know that, Britain is gonna crown its king. We can't stop them,
Yes.
and so we wanted to make sure that we focused on the fact that we have the Constitutional Reform Committee, who are now discussing and trying to come up with some points that they want our
Mm,
people to vote on, and so on. And we're just focusing on educating, talking. We would love the Jamaican people to see that they, can speak with each other. It's
yes.
in them. And we saw that at the last meeting. In fact, because the Advocates Network has been doing this campaign island wide and
Yeah.
abroad to encourage dialogue, we saw that the government, well, the Constitutional Reform Committee, they scheduled a meeting. It was very quickly done, but it was, with not much lead time to pretty much get people to talk with each other. That happened in Montego Bay, I think a few days ago. I tuned into it,
Yeah.
and I am so proud of our Jamaican people. They are
Yes.
talking. and they are making their voices heard. And so we want to continue with that. And
Mm,
we're encouraging that. And it's a great thing that's happening. And once people get excited about,
yes,
talking about it, I feel we Republican of anybody else.
yes,
It's ours. We're going to take ownership to that. And what the Advocates Network is doing is to, we can discover as Jamaicans that we can talk to each other. We have this dream of a Jamaica that we can live and
yes.
work and prosper and thrive and be proud of. I'm personally promoting this new
Yes.
kind of a Jamaican patriotism. And
Okay.
so, yeah, with a lot of
Okay.
energy.
Before I go to Anil, and just a last bit, just before I let you go, for tonight with the young people, what is it that what's your thought? Because you assisted me in getting a couple of young people as well. But what's your heart in regards to the young people, especially at this time in formulating this whole republic and this new change?
Jamaica's future and what we will become, I might not live to see it, is in the hands of our young people. I
Mm,
have so much trust in them. We have so much talent in Jamaica. We have so much heart, so many young people who want to see Jamaica work for them. And they have ideas. When I went to the meeting the last time, the most excellent ideas about educating people, even about our constitution, came from the young voices. Although the room wasn't filled with them, we're trying to get them motivated. And I think once they start knowing that we're listening to them, they're gonna come out. And I think that's where really the solutions are gonna be, and this energy going forward.
and Anil, anything last thing to Rosemary before she goes? What would you have to say?
The only thing and obviously I'm coming in the middle of the discussion, but I have just a question. I don't know what percentage of the Jamaican people have actually read the current constitution. As part of your campaign, are we sort of putting together a public education of what the current constitution means today, each of the different sections? So, as folks are thinking about, as you just said, what the new constitution is going to look like, are you putting that sort of campaign to say, here's what will change, for example, and here's what it means? Because I think oftentimes, we get these campaigns out, but I wonder how much, sort of the current constitution is read and folks know what actually is in it.
Right. That was one of the big points that came out also, that many Jamaicans have not probably read the Constitution or know what's in it. One of our young persons said, break it down now. Break it down, man. Break it down so the man in the street, everybody understand
Yeah.
what is in the Constitution, what is there, and what needs to be there. Remember, our push from the Advocates Network is not just to change a part of the Constitution, so that we can get rid of the king. It's more than that. We would like a constitution that's gonna work for Jamaicans. That's where the rules are gonna change to make sure that there's good governance. So, for example, our ministers are not, or our MPs are not performing, we can't impeach them. Term limits. When is election date? Set election date,
Recalling them, yes.
accountability, and so on. So, Silborn, let me stop because I don't want to talk too much. But there is a list of stuff that we need changed, and that's why, what we'd love for people to understand, there's no rush. We waited
That,
60
that's that, that,
years to come to this point.
that's a very good point. There's no rush. 1962, they quick it happened, but people weren't so fully aware of what's happening. But now's
Exactly.
the time where everybody can be a part of it, and that's really helpful.
And
Um,
my last question for you: how much, Rosemary, are we learning from other countries? You see what's going on in Sudan, right? They took
Hmm,
3 4 years to write
hmm.
a constitution. You saw most recently what happened in Chile, right, where they had a
Yes.
constitutional and they wrote one, but it seems there's a certain class, if you will, that hijacked the Constitution. And when it came out, the people revolted in the street and they pull it back. So, how do we learn from all the countries recent who have gone through constitutional change and learn from some of those lessons?
I think the greatest lesson to learn, O'Neill, is going to be that education. Jamaicans, we have to know what's going on. And when the people know and are firm about what and the changes that they want and what will work for them, and when there's enough discussion about it, and when we can talk about it honestly, I think the changing of the constitution cannot be politicized. It has to be, it's for Jamaica, it's for our future. So
Mm.
I think, O'Neill, that's what we can learn, that going forward, it's in the interest of everyone in Jamaica, every political party, that we as a people, this new Jamaica that we're trying to create, and making things work, and transparency and all of that stuff, and good governance that's going to come through the changes, the specific changes in the constitution. We can only It can only happen, and it can only work, and we can only stand strongly with it when we have participated in it, when we take ownership to it. So we have to keep that drive going and keep building it, O'Neill, and making sure that it's really strong.
Thank you so much, Rosemary. And we'll have to get you one day with like 3 hours and just dig into you deeply. So like you're so many resources, which is within you as well. But I'm sure you'll be watching the show anyhow still. And thank you for
Yes,
that.
and I have to make a little plug for Advocates Network. So
Yes,
make
please.
sure that you
Please.
check us out on Facebook at Advocates Net JA, and also on Instagram at Advocates Network JA. So and just Google us.
Yeah, and also one of the things also which you guys have, which I'll share those bits about the I was trying to see if I can find it, but I'll do it another time. The bit with the
Yes,
questionnaire and all of things. Yes.
right, no problem. Yeah, with the questions there, and also Silborn, to say to our audience that
Mm.
the Advocates Network, we now ease up,
And I
because
use that.
whatever has happened, we're on it, and we
Okay.
are making sure that we're responding. So we would
Fan-
love people to join us also. Thank
yeah.
you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. See you later, Rosemary.
See you later. Thank you.
Bye bye. Thanks. Hey, O'Neill, how are you doing, buddy?
I am good, man. It's been a
Yeah.
long week.
How is you still have a president over there? Is there still a president? President Biden? He's
Yeah,
going to run for 2024, isn't he?
yeah, he's gonna run 24. He announced that he's gonna be the oldest ever.
Yes.
I think we're in new territory, and depend on what side of the political spectrum you have one perspective or the other. But I think the younger generation will need to really think through what that means for them,
Mm.
because I think if you look around, there's just too much of a big generational gap, right?
Yeah.
My son said to me, he's like, Dad, when you look at the policymaker that are making policy that will impact me, 5 to 10 years from now, they're gone. So none
Yes.
of they will not live to experience good or bad the policies that they put in place. So I said to him, well, you have to get into advocacy. You
Mm.
have to put your voice out there, right, and then mobilize the young people that says, as Rosemary was just saying,
Yeah.
feel we time now. So at some point in time, we can't have a divide where, if you're a 30-year-old person, or even if you're a 40-year-old person, the person that is your leader is 40 years your senior. And if you're a 20-year-old, that person is 60 year your senior, which means if you look over the last 20 years,
Yeah.
25 years, the world has changed where technological advances. Remember, 25 years ago, we didn't have Google, we didn't have
Yeah.
Facebook, we didn't have Amazon, we didn't have all these companies that are now blazing the technological train. But
Yes.
yet still, when you look at our policymaker,
Mm.
these are things that are going to change our life. I'm sure you're tracking the whole AI movement over the last couple of weeks and months with OpenAI and ChatGPT, and
Yeah.
how that will impact society in a very technological revolution that we've not seen in 50, 60 years. But the question becomes, who's our policymaker that actually ensuring that we have proper governance, etc. And those are the things that we're going to have to figure out.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I bring in the young people shortly, but I just want us. I never had the opportunity. I did it on my Thursday show, but I think tonight I've got to also say that condolences to the family and the rest in peace of Harry Belafonte,
Yeah,
who passed away.
icon.
Great icon. I remember at law school I did Daylight Come and Go. I'm trying to find the video, but I found the video, but actually it's in the old VHS. So I'm gonna have to get somebody to try to
convert
it over. But I did a great Belafonte. Daylight Come and Go home. You know what I mean? That was awesome. And today in the car I was playing it, and I just heard there, and I shocked. My son got shocked and said, "What was that?" So it was playing in the background there. But yeah, O'Neill, tonight, of course, I got a few young people that we're going to talk to and their views as to Jamaica going forward. So without further ado, I'm gonna do that. Okay. All right. So let me just bring in, first of all, Shemar Bryan. Can you hear us, Shemar? Let's see if he can hear us. Is he? Shemar.
Hello, good afternoon from Jamaica. Hi. I'm feeling great. I'm feeling lively for this discussion.
Fantastic. And O'Neill, and ladies and gentlemen, Shemar is a youth ambassador for the Advocates Network and incoming president of Norman Manley Law School Student Association, and focuses advocacy in areas of race, class, culture, discrimination, gender-based violence, and the National Republican Movement. 22 years of age, and he's going to be sharing his views tonight as well. And he's from Jamaica. And let me just bring in Tara Johnson Reed. How are you, Tara?
I'm well. I'm good. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you. Tara is based here in the UK, and Tara is the Global Jamaica Diaspora Youth Council, United Kingdom South, communication consultant, and educated at Attrington Grammar School for Girls, University of London. And Tara, I didn't ask your age, but it's up to you if you want to share it.
I'm not too sensitive about that. I'm 25, so I can still tell people my age.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. And let me bring in Asha Richards from your country, O'Neill. Are you Asha?
Hi, how are you?
Fantastic.
When you say my country, what do you mean? Jamaica?
Oh, sugar. Yeah, that's the funny one there, isn't it? Because you're in this. I got called out there, isn't it, Asha? Question: which is your country? Yeah, I'll answer that question. Which is your country?
Out of many.
Oh,
He's asking me. Out of many, we are one. There's a lot of countries that I'm associated with.
Asha, if you say which is your country, what would you say?
well, I am Jamaican-American, and both have had an influence on my life, so I can't negate the impact of one or the other.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we're all Jamaican, yes?
Fantastic. And Asha Richards, she's a Northeast USA representative for Global Jamaica Diaspora Youth Council, graduated master's student at Columbia University School of International Public Affairs, and much more. If I read out everything, the show would be completed and I won't be able to continue. and last but not least, I bring in Narika Longbridge. How are you, Narika?
I'm good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. I'm good.
Yeah, Narika is in Jamaica, Longbridge, 22 years old, University of West Indies, major in management studies, thinking of majoring in creative writing. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm glad that you guys are all here. And O'Neill, my co-host, is here as well, and we are glad for this opportunity, and people will be watching and to hear your views and your perspective on the whole quest for Jamaica to become a republic. And one of the things which I said was that I think this is a classic opportune time for young people to take their rightful place. And what I've called it is that the weight of destiny is resting upon you, us all, but all of you. And there's something I just want to play that will sort of set the stage. And I just want to show something. It let's hope that you can understand what it is. But I'll just play it if I can. Where is it? Can you see? Yeah, there it is.
Someone call 911 now. Someone call 911. I don't care. Someone call 911.
Okay. The reason why I played that video was because I saw the video and it captured my attention. And I was thinking about this program, and the video came back to me, and I don't know if people have been watching it. I know about it, but what happened is that the driver fell sick, and I think about 66 children were in the vehicle, and he called his office to say he's going to pull over, and before he could able to pull over, he fell sick, and that 13-year-old boy ran up to the wheel and stopped the vehicle and saved maybe the lives of the children and saved maybe the lives of everybody there. 13-year-old person. The point is that was a youth who saved the day. And why I brought it up there and for tonight, which is so poignant, is that we cannot disassociate or shut down or cow down the voice of the youth in a key moment like this, because the youths are the future. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, I'm putting it over to you guys, Narika, Asha, Tara, and Shemar, as to the way forward. Now, I want to just ask you this first question is, what's your thoughts on what is happening in regards to the Jamaica becoming a republic? Just your thoughts without any specific question to it. And I'll go first to Asha. What's your thoughts on this whole drive, this excitement in the air?
Well, personally, I think that it's a good thing, a good discussion that we're having, first of all. And the fact that it's on the table, I know it's something that's been in the work for years now. So the fact that it looks like progress is being made is a good first step, in my opinion.
Fantastic. And Shemar in Jamaica? Shemar, Bryan, I don't know if can you hear me? You're on mute. You're on mute.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
So I hope you're hearing me clearly.
I can hear you clearly. You're hearing it clearly.
Okay, cool. I think my bandwidth might be a bit struggling right now. However, to where we're moving now, it raises several things for me, and I wish I could speak about them all, but it raises the concern unity, and three, how it stands for us within the legal fraternity. A topic that I'll expound on later on.
Okay, Shemar. Okay, we're having some little hiccup with yourself there, with your bandwidth, if anything. Let's go over to Thara, in the UK.
Oh, my thoughts on the beginning of constitutional reform.
Yeah.
I would say I'm on a similar page to Asha so far. This is a conversation that has been ongoing for decades. On both sides of the political aisle, there have been statements and promises to look into the constitution and remove the monarch as head of state. But within my lifetime, within the time that I've observed politics, this is the furthest that we've come in terms of actually addressing that and looking at the constitution and assessing it. And I think that that's an excellent development. It's really interesting to see that actually take place in Jamaica. And I can only hope that we progress well. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Tara. And Narika,
Can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly. Thank you.
Okay, great. I think I am going against the group because I feel that it's not enough. I'm not saying that we haven't done a tremendous amount of work, especially with what we have, but from my from like when my grandmother was a child, this discussion has been happening, and the same points have been going over and over again in a circle, and we haven't come to a grounded conclusion. And I think although we have gotten to the point where they have made a more detailed plan and they are moving towards it, there are still problems as such. They have not informed the people. There
Yeah.
are people that are my age and younger who don't even know what it means to be a republic.
Mm.
And they are having all these discussions and they are excluding a majority of the population. And that is my big problem with it. I think that we're still stuck at a place where we shouldn't be, especially with a discussion that is coming from years and years of building.
So what you're actually saying, you believe that it is a bit slow. They've been talking about this for a long
Yes,
time.
I think it's moving a bit too slow.
O'Neill, come in here.
That's a good point you raise. And I'd love this group to react to this. I think Barbados most recently was 2020 when they changed. They started their process, if I recall, back in 1996. So to your point, but they went a different route. They just amended, I believe, their constitution to change the head of state. I don't believe they changed their constitution in the way that we're talking about in Jamaica, right? But still, it's over, I think, that's at 30, almost 30 years from when they put a committee in place. So to your point, yeah, I'll just ask a follow-up question there, Erika. So what are the engagement that you think should happen? Because I think we talked with Rosemary before that we have to educate the population in Jamaica of what the current constitution says and what are the rights before we then change. Because if you don't know what's there, how are you going to vote 2/3 to make the change? So what are you guys' thoughts on how we do that?
Um, I think that we should educate the population as much as possible. A lot of, well, I would say that a lot of problems that happen in Jamaica, a lot of situations with citizens is that a lot of citizens don't know their rights. For example, a lot of citizens don't know that the police, they are not, the constitution says that they are not allowed to just arrest you and batter you for no reason. But a lot of citizens don't know that, so they allow it to happen. And I think starting from young, like from primary school, prep school, we should start at least exposing the youth to the Constitution, because I am in college and I'm learning some things that the Constitution has that I had no idea. Ignoring the outdated laws, there are some things that Jamaicans just don't follow. For example, I did not know that the Constitution says that institutions are not allowed to force people to participate in religious worship. And I had no idea that was a thing. So, and when it pertains to Barbados, I don't want the type of republic where we just replace the governor general, replace the monarchy with another figurehead. I don't want that. But personally, if we went the Barbados route, I think that is a bigger leap than where we are now, because Barbados, they have moved to the ceremonial where they have their own figurehead. So the
Yeah.
discussion can be had that we don't need one at all. But Jamaica is still stuck where we are clinging on to the monarchy. We are still spending money when they come to visit and fixing roads that they will not touch, but in case they come on the road. So that's my
You, you,
opinion and views on
you,
it.
you you brought up a good point, and this has taken us into a very key question, which I'll go to Thara and then Asha. I think just Shamar is trying to get back in. Uh, Narika, you touched on a lot on the Constitution, and it seems like Thara, that the Constitution need to be looked at while at the same time we are dealing with the Republic, removing the King. But what about the Constitution? Is that there's lots of issues in the Constitution that need to be addressed. What's your take on that, Thara?
So as far as I understand it, although I'm not a lawyer,
Yeah, yeah,
having the head of state as the monarch from the British royal family is a deeply entrenched part of the Constitution. And so to change that, it's necessary to hold a referendum. And the act of even repatriating the Constitution, bringing the document to Jamaica, examining it, gives us the opportunity not only to um, look at new models for how Jamaica might have a head of state, but also to examine other issues that are deeply entrenched in the Constitution, because it's not something that we can expect to do multiple times in a generation. It's a very long, drawn out process, with reason also, because Constitution is a very serious document that really defines a nation, and so it shouldn't be something that we constantly amend and address and change. And so, because we're having this conversation about the monarchy, about the head of state, it also gives us the opportunity to examine other issues. For example, I know that one of the things that the Constitutional Reform Committee has had discussions about is who should have the right to sit in Parliament. Currently, any Commonwealth citizen can sit in the Parliament of Jamaica, so there is not a requirement for a person to be a Jamaican national to represent Jamaica in the two houses of Parliament, which is shocking, really, to a lot of people who weren't aware of that. But it comes from the fact that Jamaica was a colonized country. And so there are loads of different things in the Constitution to address. I also saw that there's been some conversation around LGBT rights, about conversations around abortion rights, conversations around the death penalty as well, from civil rights groups and also from the political sphere as well. So there's a multitude of issues that we can address when we open up the Constitution and begin to change it.
okay. Asha, what's your take on the before we go on to the difference between the Republic, the different types of Republic, which is ceremonial or executive? um, the Constitution bit, Asha, because we're talking about the moving of the king, but the Constitution has so many intricacies at the same time that links it. What's your take on that? And I'm going to go to Shamar before you get cut off again. Go on, Asha. Yes.
Or were you going to Shamar or
No, no,
starting
no,
with
no,
me?
no, Asha. I'm going to you, Asha, but I'm
Okay.
queuing up Shamar because I keep getting cut off all the while.
All right, no problem. So, the first thing that I would like to say is I definitely agree with Narika that people need to be aware of their rights and the Constitution as is. While it's kind of surprising to me that a lot of Jamaicans aren't aware, because I know growing up in the US system from elementary school, we study the Constitution a lot. So, this is something that definitely should be done before any kind of referendum is held, because people shouldn't, not saying that they shouldn't vote, because something of this nature, Jamaican people need to vote. However, there needs to be opportunities for people to know exactly what they're voting on, what exactly is being changed, and what rights they have. Therefore, this is an opportunity probably once in a lifetime to kickstart not only introducing these in classrooms, but holding town halls around the country, educating people about what is in the Constitution. And in that way, you can involve people in the discussion,
Mm.
whether that, why they might, you can't have everybody on the committee, but you can at least in these town hall meetings, once you explain what is in the Constitution, hear back what the people actually want their rights to be, what people are actually hearing. So at least you can take some of the civil society's input into the changes that are happening. So with that said, I believe that yes, there should be a referendum and there should be the removing of the figurehead. But again, changing a constitution isn't something that happens every day. And while the focus is to become a republic and remove the monarchy, this provides a unique opportunity to actually change the constitution for a better Jamaica and include people that were not a part of the discussion before. Because, as aforementioned, when the constitution was made, it was during colonialism and when Jamaica was independent. Even though there might have been some consultations, there might not have been a lot. So,
Is
this
Jamaica?
is a
Yeah.
unique opportunity.
Would you say Jamaica is independent?
It depends on your definition, but in regards to international affairs and international relations, yes, it's a
Okay, I will
sovereign
just.
state.
I was being facetious, but I won't go into that side now. Let me go on to Shamar. Before you go, Shamar, if you can pick up on the same point regarding the Constitution and being the legal expert there. Shamar, you can hear me? I know you're using Flow. Flow always give us this problem all the while when we do Jamaica.
To switch the line.
Yeah.
Or it's live.
Yeah.
Are
Are
you
you
using
able to
live
hear
or
me clearly now? Because Flo's been giving me.
Flow? We'll
Oh,
bear
it's
with
Flo.
you.
Flo and Lime are the same now.
Okay.
It's Flow and Digital, I believe.
So, are you able to hear me clearly?
Yes, Shamar. You just speak. Go ahead. I guess he's having difficulties there.
Yeah, he's having difficulty
Yeah.
speaking.
Okay, Shamar, we might have to use your pretty looks in the meantime. At
Right.
the
You have
same
some.
time, uh,
Can he type in his answer,
yeah,
Sarah? Can he just type
well,
in and
well,
then?
yeah, I can't. You mean type in what he's gonna say? I can't type what he's gonna say.
No, if he could type it in.
Yeah, if you can type it in, Shamar, if anything, you're a bit there. I want to go on to this question. Well, people are asking this bit here. What is your understanding of Jamaica becoming a republic? Does the youth have beyond the monarch narrative? And what's your Okay, what's your understanding of the monarch? And then the second part to the question after is the distinction between the ceremonial and the executive, and what's your preference? You don't have to do everything in one go, but let's talk about what's your view of the monarch, Jamaica. What's the question? The understanding of being a republic. And I'll go to Narika.
Understanding of being a republic are my views on the monarchy.
No, forget the monarchy. We're getting
Oh,
rid of monarchy. Views of being a
okay.
republic.
Um, Definitely, I would want us to be a republic. And from from the inception of what a republic comes from, it came from, well, the Greeks, and it's essentially, instead of having one divine person for whatever reason assigned or ascribed to this role, you choose who represents you, who speaks for you. No, back then it was limited because it was a certain class of people, but our definition of a monarchy today is roughly the same. It's where we, the people, everybody in the country should have a say in how the country is governed.
Being a
Who's,
republic, you mean? Being a republic.
yeah, doing our public. Yeah, how
Yeah.
the country is governed, who represents us, what we represent as a people. It is where we should we should basically be in charge of our own affairs, our people, and that's what I really want for Jamaica in the sense. Whether
And
it's whether it's ceremonial or executive, although I prefer executive.
why would you prefer the executive than the ceremonial?
because the ceremonial to me is, it's not necessary, because you're essentially having a figurehead who, it's somebody that will be paid money, that will quote unquote not have power, but they still have power. For example, our figurehead, the governor general, he can sign off on certain things that the prime minister cannot. So the person is a figurehead, but they still have a type of power, and it's not necessary to me. So that's why I wouldn't want ceremonial in any form.
And you say you prefer the executive.
Yes, and also the people do not elect the ceremonial figurehead. The government does, or whoever is in charge, and that person stays there for a tenure. So again, it's a waste of space and money to me.
Okay, good. I'm going to come back on the point about appointees and elected. Asha, same question to you regarding the republic being ceremonial or executive, and your preference and why as well.
Okay, so for the most part, I do agree with Narika, because if you look at the international relations definition of what a republic is, it's a country that is governed by the people, and their elected officials or their high ranking officials represent the people. And as such, I think the best way to go about it is an executive as opposed to ceremonial, because that gives the person direct what's the word? But basically direct allegiance, I guess, to the people, because the people are the ones that put them there as opposed to being appointed. And there are certain duties that are expected of an executive, whereas the ceremonial does not necessarily have those same expectations per se. So, in addition to when we're talking about the constitutional reform, when we're becoming a republic, that leads the question that becoming a republic might necessarily mean more than just taking the queen or the king off as the official head of state.
Yes.
It's how can we make governance um, more accountable
And
to the
transparent.
people that they and transparent to the people that they represent.
Tara, you're putting up your hand. You want to say something there?
Oh, I put up my hand because I disagree. So the system of governance I think I'm most familiar with, well, because I'm British as well. And we obviously have the monarch as our head of state, and then we have the prime minister. And we also have the bicameral parliament, which is the lower house made up of MPs, and then we have the upper house, which I think is called the Senate in some other countries.
Yeah.
But in the UK, it's the House of Lords. I think that it's incredibly important to have leaders who sit above elected officials. We've seen recently, in like the past decade, the effects of populism, of the ways in which the electorate can be manipulated with misinformation, the ways in which people who are underinformed and misinformed can make terrible decisions about who their elected officials should be. Elected officials are also subject to um, elected
Russian
officials who
misinformation.
follow.
Russian misinformation. I just dropped that one in.
Not just Russian. I
Mm,
mean, it happens all over. But yeah, we have seen that in the West,
mm,
and the effects that that has had. And then there's the alternative, which is to be able to impeach, but that's a very drawn out process. The reason why I mentioned the bicameral thing as well is that we have MPs who are elected, but then we have the House of Lords who sit above them, and they are appointed because of their knowledge, also because of the families that they come from. But there have been multiple times when elected officials have put forward laws that I didn't agree with, and it was the unelected people who had the sense to vote them down. So I think in the age of populism, of misinformation, of sometimes weak processes of governance, because I think a lot of us know that elections in Jamaica leave a lot to be desired. I don't think we can confidently say that the way that elections run in Jamaica is really that people are informed and they go to the ballot box and they make decisions based on what politicians have said around policy issues. That's not really the case of how Jamaica works. And so to say that that process should decide the absolute leader of the country, I think would leave us open to a lot of vulnerability. So I would say that it's better to have a ceremonial head of state.
So Silver, I have a follow-up question just to that, and I'll ask Asha to answer because I think you want to answer. Do you think, if you sort of look at the political class in Jamaica, right, do you believe the political class in Jamaica will vote for a republic, which in effect nullify their power? Do you believe that's the case?
Do you mean, are you suggesting that the political class might be inclined to choose a kind of
figurehead, like Barbados?
I don't think a figurehead is such a terrible thing. I think that when you have an executive, you have a person who has too much power, essentially. And a figurehead is useful to keep the elected officials in check so that they understand and know, and that functionally there is a leader that sits above them that can control the situation, who is not influenced as well, because there's a certain kind of when politicians know that an election cycle is coming up, it changes the way that they behave. They have to communicate a certain way in order to be voted back in, and that kind of can weaken their leadership as well. So someone who isn't subject to that can also be a more constant leader as well.
It is very interesting what Tara says there, and that's one of the reasons why I really wanted this discussion.
Yeah. So can I read? Because I don't. Okay. Shemar actually respond. I don't think Shemar. Can you? You still having issues?
Where is he?
It seems like he's still having issues. But here's what Shemar wrote. The executive would be. Go ahead, Silver.
No, you go ahead. I'm going to post.
The executive would be a preferred movement as to the actual function held. Ceremonial in the sense mean that almost nothing in the current political infrastructure does not change, which is pretty much what Barbados has gone through. The executive approach would even go as far as to facilitate national unity, which has been a struggle for Jamaica's political atmosphere from before I was even born. Instead of being ruled by a legislative majority vote that represent one so-called majority, we have a unified voice under the executive. So that was from Shemar.
Yeah. Shemar?
Sorry.
Go ahead, please. Go ahead. Go ahead, Asha.
All right, up here, Shemar left. Sorry.
Yeah, he's having connectivity.
Yes. Yeah.
I read what he wrote.
So, in regards to Thara's prior statement, I disagree. While I do agree that populism has had a wide effect across the world, as you can see, one, populism can be different between different countries, and as a concept on its own is not necessarily a bad thing. It's what the leaders do with that information, but that's a completely separate argument. But the point that I would like to make is a lot of that, yes, it comes from misinformation and false information, really. But I don't think that the solution to that is excluding everyday people from the process of electing the executive. And I mean, you can even take the US for example. And I mean, I'm not saying that one political side is right or one political side is wrong, but I can freely say that I'm not a supporter of Trump. But there was a lot of things that he wanted to do, but because there were certain checks and balances, he was not able to just do them alone. Therefore, depending on how the Constitution is framed, there are ways that can keep things in check but also give people the power to elect their high ranking officials without necessarily having it be particularly disruptive or exclusionary. What I would rather say, instead of saying that the executive should be appointed and be more ceremonial, instead would be to inform people, as we had mentioned before, educate people about what is in the Constitution, and two, what their rights are, what government officials are supposed to be doing, and finding better ways to hold these officials accountable. It can't be just when election time comes, I'm gonna do a jingle, or I'm going to help out with this. I'm gonna fix this road that has been needing to be fixed from when, but election time soon come. You know, there needs to be an educated electorate, and I agree with you on that. But I feel that the Jamaican people have enough capability to elect their executive, and to further assist them, you know, we should have a full campaign on educating people from uptown in Kingston down to the most rural of rural.
Yeah.
So Asha, do you think that even matters now? So if you look at the last election, there was only 30% of the vote, right? Which means 70% of the
37% of the
eligible,
yeah,
right, voted.
on the list, actually on the voters list.
Right. So when you look at that construct, and you need 2/3, I think Tara mentioned that there are other group rights that have been discussed. That some of that will become divisive, especially with the church. The question becomes, where does Jamaica go from here? Obviously, here in the discussion here around ceremonial versus something similar to the UK, if you have to choose, and tomorrow was sort of the referendum, what do we think would be the best institution for governance for the Jamaican people?
Well, first thing I would say, the referendum can't happen tomorrow.
No,
As
no,
I said, there need no. I know, but basically, as I was saying, there needs to be greater education amongst everybody about what's going on. But I wouldn't necessarily use last elections as a proxy to participation, because one, it happened during COVID, and two, part of the issue with that is a lot of people are
So sorry,
apathetic.
the one before was like 39%.
Oh, well. But again, part of that has to do with a bit of apathy, because a, a lot of the thing is because we have kind of a bi-party system, even though it's parliamentary. It's really the same group of people you're voting for each time you go into the election. So a lot of people, especially again with the lack of accountability per se, feel like they're voting where there's not really going to be that much change. But something as large as the Constitution, which does not happen every few years, it has a much greater impact and actually can lead to the change to hold said leaders accountable. So I feel if that information is communicated to people and people understand that enough people would actually go out and vote. And as you mentioned, there's a lot of controversial things within the Constitution that are being discussed. And I feel that while they might be controversial, it's actually a benefit in getting people involved, because it can be a stepping stone into the greater conversation of constitutional change and what that actually means, what would change.
Okay.
But anybody feel free to add on.
Okay, can I come in there? And just want to say something and linking back to Tara, because Tara may have a point there. Well, she has a point. Everybody has a point. And O'Neill, you flag it up, and I checked the figures. It was 408,000 who voted for the JLP at the last election. 305,000 voted for the PNP. 724,000 voted totally of the 1.98 million on the electoral list, right? And what Tara is saying is that if we follow that route and there's apathy, you're going to have a very funny electoral people there, isn't it, Tara? You're talking about you want a ceremonial head to appoint, someone appointed. Because And at the same time, Tower, isn't the person who are appointed at the same time by the political leaders? There's a twofold bit which I dropped in there a second. One for you and one which is
Yeah. I'm not certain on what all of the processes are in Jamaica. I know that in the UK, every prime minister who is outgoing has the privilege to select a small number of people who can then sit in the House of Lords.
exactly.
There are also hereditary peers. So they come from families who have historically owned large amounts of land, and they inherit their seats in the House of Lords.
Yes.
That's controversial. There are also, but it's the people who are appointed, particularly by outgoing prime ministers. They are people who are have risen to prominence in business, in civil rights, in a variety of different issues. And so they are given the privilege of sitting in the upper house and voting down or up laws, which then govern the country. So that's as far as I understand it. Think that I don't think that we can overlook how vulnerable, like democracy is a great ambition to have, and it's very good to listen to and acknowledge and incorporate the voices of the people. But when we have a situation where large swathes of the population are not educated enough to be literate by the time they leave school, and where even in countries where there are high levels of literacy, people are misinformed, and that can drastically affect elections, not just in Europe, also in the Americas, in the Caribbean, it's happened as well. I think to then say that those systems should be the systems which we use to choose the most senior people, to me, it just seems highly vulnerable.
I'm gonna bring it. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Thanks for that, Tara. Thank you very much. And Narika, if you come in on that point, I see your hand up. Yeah.
I had my hand up because I don't know if you're gonna move on, so I wanted to say
No,
my
please.
opinions on what Tara said. It's in line with what Aisha said, because I don't believe that the problem in Jamaica can be solved by having a ceremonial head, because one of the main problems is on education. And as the data showed, a lot of adults, like 30 to 40 year olds, a lot of them believe that it's not worth voting for because they have lived under the two political parties, and to them it's the same thing. It's the same problems, it's the same issues, it's not really changing. So they push down that ideology, and even people my age and younger, they don't want to vote either because it's the same thing. So I think a real change would come from educating the people starting from young. And also, as I was gonna also use the American system as an example, it's not perfect, I don't really love it, but the thing that I like about it in all its flaws is that there are so many checks and balances. The president can't just do something because he has the house that will get in his way, and he cannot just make a law like that. And if those checks and balances are not satisfactory, then I remember someone, when I was having a discussion, someone said to me, there should be limits on how many terms somebody can run for. The Americans have it. Why can anybody run and rule for 10 years if they want? People can run endlessly. There's no limit to how many terms you can serve as prime minister. You can rerun and win and over again. So I remember somebody telling me that a good check and balance would be that a prime minister can only run once. He can only run once, so that he knows that he has to do
Perform
as
the
much
best.
as he has to perform as well as possible, or else he's going to get removed either way. But you'd have to
Yeah.
perform as good as possible, so that when the next election is run, the people will be more susceptible for voting.
It's very interesting how this has unfolded, and a point which came up a while ago is about term limits. And term limits, I believe, is something which would have to be dealt with in the constitution as well. Anil, if you pick up on that bit there regarding term limits, because what is happening tonight is we are touching on different areas, and we're not going to be able to deal with it. And I know Rosemary is actually taking notes in the background there. We're going to be able to pick up more things. But the term limit with Anil, that's a crucial point, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a crucial point. I just want to make just a point of reference. So if the amendment to the Constitution, I think you just mentioned there's 1.9 people on the electorate. I believe it's 2/3, which means you need 1.2 million Jamaica to ratify it, right?
Yeah.
I suspect that at the end of it, and I could be totally wrong, Jamaica is going to go the way of Barbados, similar to Israel.
You think so?
I suspect that's the easiest path. And I suspect they might do the similar what Barbados went through, realizing that change in the Constitution is much harder. So they decide to just do an amendment because it was less divisive, and they put it aside to revisit. So I suspect that's the path Jamaica would follow, and they might add some different amendments to it. I could be wrong, but I suspect that's where they're going to go. Term limits are important. The question becomes, what's a number, right? In the US, they talk about in the Senate 2-term, which is 12 years. In the Congress, which is 2-year term, they're saying 4 terms. The question becomes, what is it that you're trying to solve? I feel that, what age should you say not become a member of parliament and let the next generation become the next set of leaders? I'm for leaders becoming self-aware that, hey, look, we have all these young people here. They need to be part of the process. And I think I mentioned this, Silburn, where my son is 21 years old. And he said to me, Dad, the people are making decision at a policy level. They're not going to be around for them to feel the impact of those policies, right? Most of them would be dead. So I said, son, what you have to do, you have to get in line with advocacy and go get all the young people to start getting their voice heard. Because I think that's the important piece, where it's not only in Jamaica, but in the US, where you see technologies changing every few days. But yet still, if you look at, our system here, we have a president who is, is going to be 80 in a couple of weeks. We have another one who is running 79. And the question becomes, when and how many years and how many terms? And I don't think we have figured that out, because I think Silburn, what they say, power corrupt power. Absolute power corrupt. And most people don't want to give up that power, right? They want to keep it. And I think you're going to see the same thing in Jamaica, where the political class don't want to give up power. And I think, education is important. And I wonder why, for example, they don't go to every high school in Jamaica and start talking about the Constitution and get those kids to go talk to their parents about it, right? If you're serious about educating, you could start there. That's a simple process. It shouldn't take you a year to break down what's in the Constitution, educate the high schoolers so they could educate their community, right? So,
and incorporate it in civics as well.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's hard, and I think the next generation, including myself, will need to advocate. And I think external pressures will be put on Jamaica by bodies such as the UN, bodies such as the IMF, bodies such as the World Bank, right? There will be external pressures that will be put to bear, unfortunately.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, for the sake of time, I'm just going to ask Narika, Aisha, and Tara, term limits. What do you say about term limits in a nutshell? And I've got a key question which I want to ask after. Narika, term limits. Should there be term limits incorporated in this new system, whatever?
Definitely, there should be term, and in my opinion, also age limits, because there are people in parliament that along with the class divide where they don't understand how the common Jamaican person lives. They are too old to understand how young people might like me may want changes in the country, and they don't listen to the youth. That is also another issue. They I remember they invited a young person to come and speak, and the parliament the parliament, they listened to him, but then there was no change. I saw everybody applauding him, and I was like, well, the voice is being heard. I expected some change after that, but there was none. So it feels like all voices are being silenced, and these people that are over the retirement age are allowed to have these positions. So I think there should be term limits and age limits.
Okay, and I go for Tara. Term limits.
I would say I think O'Neill raised an interesting point, which is what do we seek to achieve by imposing term limits? If there are more term limits, you would expect to see a rotating door with more leaders. So instead of having a few leaders who emerge, you would see more people. I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing.
Yeah.
As I kind of implied before, I think that elections and leadership contests are actually a vulnerability. We've seen in the UK recently where we had 3 prime ministers in less than a year.
Mm.
How embarrassing that was really on the world stage. And that's an extreme example. But I think that to have a constant changing of the guard of leadership is not necessarily the best way to go about things. And I think that elections kind of force politicians to change tack and to communicate things that they believe will be popular, which might differ from what they actually believe is right for the country. And so I think that constancy is something that we should seek to have in leadership. And I don't know if shorter term limits would actually be a way to achieve that.
So what you're actually saying, and I believe Narika said it earlier, if you got one term, the prime minister or the leader may be prone to act more. But when I think about it in a way, they may not be. They will more try to get what they can get out of it, and maybe
And
work hard. Maybe work hard for the next period, for the next
And of
term.
course, leaders still belong to political parties as well.
Yeah.
So there would, and there is an entire infrastructure that exists around leaders and how they are
Mm,
chosen. So
mm.
it wouldn't be the case that leaders are completely independent because they all belong to parties anyway. So I'm not sure if that would really work.
So,
Let
so
me
the
go to
interesting
Aisha. Sorry.
the
Only,
interesting thing in Virginia, where I live, the governor only has one term. But the interesting thing, the legislative body have more power than the governor. So you could only run one term. You could come back, but it's normally just one term, and it's always a revolving door. But in order to sort of ensure there's a continuation, there's more power in the legislative body in Virginia than sort of within the governorship. So you'd have to figure out what the balance and
yes.
where do you put the power? Do you put it in Congress, or so that's the issue you're trying to solve for.
I'm gonna go to thanks, Only Aisha. Term limits.
Okay, so I believe while term limits in theory are a good idea, and I'm not tabling that they shouldn't be a thing. However,
Mm.
I think the main issue that we have is accountability. And while term limits are good, term limits are not necessarily what's going to solve that problem. I believe more so what we should be looking at is the duration of time for each term, because the shorter the time, the more you're accountable because you have to keep coming back to election. So if you're not doing anything, people can vote you out. But there's also the idea of how where was I what was I going to say? But having shorter terms, but also thinking of a way, granted it might be more difficult in a parliamentary system than a Senate and House of Representatives. But again, which is something that I wanted to add before, just because I mentioned the US system doesn't mean that Jamaica needs to copy the US system verbatim. And I don't think that's what should be done. But just looking at different countries and seeing what's done and what works, what doesn't work, what can work in the Jamaican context, what cannot. And this would be a good opportunity to do it. But overall, there needs to be a way to kind of break up the party dominance, if you get what I mean. With a parliamentary system, it's kind of difficult because basically you elect the people that serve in parliament, and based on majority, that's head of state. But finding a way to kind of unlink the two.
Hmm.
I'm not exactly sure how best to do that,
Okay.
but it would hold executive leaders, but also um, more local leaders accountable, because when you're voting for the local leader, you're voting only for local leadership. So you don't, while party is important in it, it doesn't necessarily have as huge a stake, because you're not voting just when you're voting for the local leader, you're also voting for head of state in a sense, in an indirect way. So it's like, okay, I want my party to win or something like that. No, when you find a way to separate those enough, and it's like, okay, this local this local leader is not doing what I need them to do, and especially if they have shorter term limits, it's
Yeah.
like, okay, yeah, we need to put in someone else. But just because I vote whichever way does not necessarily mean that the prime minister or someone higher will change automatically. You know?
Okay. Thank you for that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to wrap up shortly with the youth, but I just one big question I want to ask you guys. I think Tara said she got kicked out. Um, yes, we're almost done. Just one major question which I want to ask is, how do you believe or would you suggest to the government in educating the mass of people, because they realize that there's an education issue which is lacking here now. And Narika, you have touched on it a lot. How would you propose and the best way to go about the nation of Jamaica in educating the persons regarding this whole constitution and the referendum and the republic? Narika, oh,
Oh,
you're on mute, Narika.
um,
Sorry.
so just to be quick, reiterating everything I've said, we need to start from the education system because, on a whole, I think it needs a large reform. It
Yeah.
needs to be ingrained because you have two types of learning. You have the one that is mandatory in school, and you have the one that you don't intend to teach them, but you are sorry about that, but you are subconsciously teaching them these values and these norms. So I think we should start by ingraining it into the curriculum, and also
I want to stop you there, Narika. I'm talking about this pending election and this pending
the
referendum.
pending election.
Yeah, which would be you're talking about people who are able to vote. Yes.
I
Yeah.
I was thinking of a long term.
Yeah, the 14 is talking about getting out there, and they're going to put a proposal. The minister
Okay.
also said they have agreed a consensus for a ceremonial president. So, how would you get the message out for people to be
Okay,
interactive?
my apologies.
That's okay.
I personally think the best way is social media. As much as it would be great to own town halls, a good population in Jamaica are young, like my age into their 30s, and it won't hit everybody. It won't affect those that are high up, but everybody is connected nowadays. Like my grandmother will be showing me something on Facebook that she saw, and even if it's misinformation or not, she saw it. People are talking about it. So I think by spreading it on social media, have celebrities talk about it, whether it's Usain Bolt or the trendiest dancehall artist, but that's eh, the go that's gonna have to do a lot of work. But just have influential people, have the influencers that people like to watch talk
Yeah,
about it. To basically just to open the mind.
and get the nation talking.
Yes, and they don't have. And again, if it's not if it's not feasible to put all the information out there, I just make these people promote it and then you can put the information in a town hall or in a discussion and have them, have them inform the people in a way that will make it digestible. Because a huge problem in Jamaica is that I don't know the politicians do it on purpose, but they do not speak in a way that a majority of the population will understand. So a lot
Okay.
of people just hear these fancy words and think,
And
okay,
can't bother.
he
They
knows
can't
what
bother.
he's talking about. He's know what he's talking about. So I think it should also be done in a way that in the most layman terms. So that's what I done.
Fantastic. And let me go to Aisha. Asha, keep putting an eye in your head. In your name, Asha,
Yes, it's Asha.
yeah.
But I wholeheartedly agree with what Narika had to say. Honestly, in the past diaspora elections, that is something that I have been trying to push with a lot of government, because the thing is, and that's part of why we need more youth in this conversation, because when you have a a group of people that are much older, there are groups of people that you can't necessarily reach in traditional ways. And while I'm not saying that traditional ways are not important, you need to reach people where they are. Therefore, it takes more than just, while town halls, I do agree, town halls are necessary, but again, if you're trying to reach the youth, where are the youth? They're on social media. Engage social media personalities, engage celebrities, as Narika said, basically. You
Mm.
know, it needs to be a combined effort. You need to reach everybody where
All
they
right.
are. So, whether that be in the paper, whether that be through social media, whether that be through traditional news outlets on TVJ or something like that, people need to be reached where they are. So, it needs to be a comprehensive effort. There's no one way to teach everybody.
Well, that's wonderful. Anil, any last word? Before I let the Narika and Asha go, I'm going to bring in Lester.
No, I would say, continue your advocacy. Obviously, you both have points, and especially Narika, you're in Jamaica, you're on the ground there. Mobilize your friends who mobilize their friends. I would say figure out how to get the current committee to say, hey, it's not just town halls, as you mentioned. We want a voice, right? And then how do you get the, as you said, the influencers such as the Usain Bolt and others to put the information out there? So I would say continue to be part of the discussion and continue to put your voice out there, because you're the next generation. So anything that is done, you're going to own it. So you want to make sure your voice is heard.
And and for those who are biblically inclined, there's in in the book of Job's, there was a situation whereby the old guys and didn't want to let this young guy named Elias speak, and he said, and Eliah the son of Barakol the Bezite answered, I'm young in years. I'm gonna speak like Manley. I guess Lester might be upset. I'm young in years and your age. Therefore, I was timid and afraid to declare my opinion to you. I said, let days speak and many years teach wisdom, but it is spirit in a man, the breath of the Almighty, that makes him understand. It is not the old that are wise, not nor the age that understand what is right. Therefore, I say, listen to me. Let me also declare my opinion. So that is my encouragement to the youths, that you must feel strong and feel proud to declare your opinion. Because guess what? Manley were young one time. Siaga was young time. All of them were young. I made them mistake. DK Duncan and all of them, all O'Neill young. I'm the only youngest guy still here alive now. All these guys are old.
There's no young people in Ochi.
Asha, I want to thank you so much for coming on tonight, and Narika, and also to thank Shemar as well, Shemar Bryan, for coming on. He had an issue with his Wi-Fi, and Thara also apologized. Her computer died, but I said it was going to be an hour, so she finished in due time. Thara, communication consultant, Global Jamaica Diaspora Youth Council. Thank her from the UK. Asha Richards-USA, Northeast USA representative of Global Jamaica Diaspora Youth. Shemar, youth ambassador for the Advocates Network. And Narika, 28 years old, attending University of West Indies, major in management studies, and is on fire and to do great things and to mobilize all the people in Jamaica. All right. Thank you very much, Asha and Narika. All the best. Thank you. Thank you so much. Peace out. Okay, Anil, that was great and that was good. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for staying on, and thank you as well. I'm gonna bring in
It just, as
sorry.
you're bringing in, it
Yeah.
just tells you, if we engage the young people, you get a lot of good perspective. And I hope as this process continue, you get to the young folks on
Anil, stop for a second. I just have an issue. I'm gonna come out and you just cheer for the time being with Rosemary, Matunda, and Blogging Nagandi. Okay, I'll back a second. Anil, yeah.
Yeah.
Just cheer for the.
I think that was so great, O'Neill. If I may, can I? Are you hearing me?
Yeah. Hearing
Yes,
you.
I think that was really, really great. Listening to all the young people and hearing their voices and hearing their ideas. And I think that is what we need more of. That is what the Advocates Network was saying. Start with your knowledge. If you're thinking of and finding your place in building this republic, or having ideas towards it, start with your knowledge. Dialogue with others. Encourage community or group actions or activities towards the discussion, and support any kind of advocacy that's out there, are campaigns to improve the knowledge towards building this republic that's gonna be created or be formed for Jamaica, because it's gonna a few republic. It can't be like everybody else. We have
Yeah.
to find the one we are gonna work through with. So I was listening to the discussion about how is it going to be, what by the time we are involved and speaking enough and really getting involved in it and in the dialogue about it, I feel that we're going to find the right one for us.
Yeah. You're correct. I think, Rosemary. I do believe, I hope that there's not an expectation that is being set that it's going to happen tomorrow. I think I mentioned that
Exactly.
I believe Barbados started their journey in 1996, and it was 2020 or 21, right? Obviously, they had different milestones along the way, but I hope, and I hope that the political system and the committee is not going to push something through because you want to say you got rid of the monarch and that's it, right? It
And
should
that's
be
it.
much more broader than that. It should be how you drive better governance for the Jamaican people. How do you get more participation in the political process? And how do you ensure that the rights and the constitution is updated based on sort of where we are, and how technology has changed. So I hope that's the case. Silburn, you're back.
We
Can't
can't
hear
hear
you.
you.
You're mute.
Yeah, it does happen to me as well. Thank you so much for coming on, and it was a great discussion, and I think it's so very important to just listen to what the young people are actually saying. I want to come in. Thank you, Matunda and Blogging God, for your review. Matunda, what you have to say first? As you can see, there was a sort of split in the sense of the ceremonial and executive aspect. But one of the things that what's her name said very clearly was education. What do you have to say about that from that perspective?
I mean, that's what Narika was saying about education. Was quite it's quite important. Um, I mean, democracy can only mean something or what it ought to mean when people are expressing themselves from a position of knowledge. Anything less than that is democracy. It's nothing. It's nothing, and that is why I'm personally disappointed with a process that starts off by telling me that it will take 2 months and then sort of backtracking to tell me that we're going to have town hall meetings to discuss what you've already decided on. I I I like what the lady. I'm using my phone, so I can't see her name. I think is it
Rose,
Rosalie?
Yeah, Miss
Yeah,
Rosemary.
Rosemary,
she said a free republic. That means a lot.
Mm.
That means that this is ours, and if it's ours, then we must fashion something from a premise of having the knowledge.
right. May I make a comment, sir? Thank you very much for your comment, and I think it's very important. Um, One of the things, it's a matter of respect too. It's a matter of respecting the Jamaican people. The Advocates Network asked some questions, and we started out because we wanted people to think about it a little bit more personally, take it personally. I feel we. So the question we asked, well, four questions that we did in our campaign. Do you want do you want to be involved in changing Jamaica's constitution? And if yes, why? And if no, why not? What kind of republic do you want to see in Jamaica? What kind? So when people are forced to think, even the man in the street, yes, what kind, where it should look like, and even with the education, all that's gonna come with it to make that educated a decision or insight. Very important. What role or responsibility do you have in creating the republic you want to see? And then list three roles or list three things that are important to you. And then the last question we asked was, should Jamaica continue to have a monarch? And
Yeah.
the answer is, if yes, why? And if no, why not? And I think even those basic questions, setting out before all of this discussions at the high level, it was very basic. We had 2 years, wasn't it? 2 years since the commission, that we knew that it was going to come to this. So
Yes.
I think it's a matter of also respect for our
So,
Jamaican people.
Let me bring in. Sorry.
so I just have one. So Rosemary, there's a thought I have as you were speaking in terms of the question. Uh, could it be? It's not a matter of do you want to be involved. It should be you should be involved because this will impact you, and convincing the citizen why. If you go back and take a page out of the South Africans when they rewrote their constitution. They did it in the factory floors, they did it in the prisons. Every corner of South Africa was visited, right? We should take a playbook out of that to make sure that it's not a matter of do you want to be involved, you should be involved.
Mm.
And that, O'Neill, I think that's very important. When we phrase the question, we realize that we did not want necessarily we wanted to have it open so that there could be even further discussion. Because someone might say, do you want to be? No, I don't. Well, why not? Well, because. And so the discussion continues instead of course, we know that they should be. That's what we're hoping to, but to have it more encompassing, or to have it being able to be open, and to have further discussion. That's what we are really saying, to keep it going, to keep the ideas coming, and to have the dialogue.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that. Let me bring in Lester. Let's see your perspective. And O'Neill, sorry, O'Neill, I think you have to go, or are you gonna go?
Yeah, you have to go. About a minute, and then I have to go. I just want to see what Lester, my good friend, Lester.
You won't go until you hear what Lester says.
How are my levels? You hear me properly?
Hi, Corey. Oh, Corey's here as well. Yeah. Yeah. You are hearing
Okay.
it clearly.
Good night to the beautiful panel. It was an interaction with the young people. I wasn't satisfied with a lot of things that they were saying, but I mean the young people have to have their voice. The thing is, Jamaican people, and I can speak from both sides of the society where I was at one particular level and I've risen to another level, so I can interchange between both.
Yes.
For the most part, the people who this should matter to are not on Twitter, are not on Facebook in a certain capacity, they are not accessing these things, right? And their interest is how they're going to survive from day to day. That's what their main interest. Secondly, the people who it matter to most don't understand what governance is or what government is. They don't. They don't understand even the difference between the Republican system and the Westminster system or the autocratic system. They don't, and they don't really care. What they want is to be able to provide for their family. So it is upon the government, upon persons who are interested to say, let us bring this into a palatable fashion to let them understand. So it can't be even a 2 year process. It may have to take a longer process. Just like when you're doing a census where people go into the streets, right? And the thing is that we have multimedia now, we have more access now. If a person like Michael Manley could go viral in the 70s, you know, that means that we have the means to do it right now. So we have to really, all stakeholders have to come together and be patient, because a lot of time the person who these things matter to most get left out. Most of the time when we're on these panels and we are discussing these things, we're speaking from an elevated standpoint. We're speaking from a higher income level standpoint. We're speaking from a higher educational standpoint. And and we think that we're talking on behalf of the small man and small woman, right? But we are not, because many times these people are not even in the space to hear us or in the capacity to understand what is being said.
Pause, Lester, there, and that's a brilliant point you mentioned about reaching to the people. It's back again to, and Rosemary is back again to reaching to the people. I'm going to go to Corey, because Lester is actually saying this is not a 2 year process. And when you say 2 year process, you're talking about even the republic. You're talking about, Lester. You're not talking about the Constitution. You're talking about the republic. Yes, Corey. Lester said 2 years, and talking about that the level of discussions now are not reaching to the average man. Well, there's a term about average, but to every sector. How would you address that, Corey?
All right. I'm going to address it in two folds. The first being the current narrative, which is removing the monarch as head. All right. And what the general consensus is that we don't need to answer to the king. Remove the king as a head of state now. A figurehead is much too long, and we need to have our own constitution that speaks to a direct line into addressing our problems, our issues that we have. Okay, so that is the word on the street, that within our own makeup, all right, we should not have these people advocating for us. So that's a common narrative on the street. Now, the more focused narrative into moving this forward is actually who will be the ones making representation. Great discussion points with the young people as to the way forward, how they want to see it. O'Neill made great points and interjected when was necessary to bring it back together. But my gut feeling, and I am going to speak from a point of opinion now, that conversations need to start now about moving towards this republic realization, what the process will look like, and how each citizen will play a role in this process. 2 years, I think it's quite long. It can happen under 2 years if you follow the route that O'Neill suggested. And quite frankly, I don't think we need the hard and fast rhetoric to sell this, because it's already on the lips of most individuals. How to reach individuals for them to be better informed. As the young people mentioned, that social media is where a lot of young people live, right, or where they reside as communication medium. I tend to disagree. That it's not only the young people that use these platforms. the newsrooms use it, but we have to be a little bit more creative. And I agree with the young lady, Asha, and Narika, her name was, that you need to get into the dance hall. You need to get into the church spaces. You need to get into every nook and cranny and make jingles out of it, because that's where you start the re-socialization process for people to understand what a republic is and the benefit of the republic. So all the other pieces will fall in place, and understanding the electoral process, selecting people to represent you. So 2 years, I don't think it's far-fetched. 720 how much are 30 days.
Yeah.
It can happen, because the conversations have already started and a committee is being put in place. Who sits on the committee and the subcommittees is yet to be seen, but the young voices. And don't let me leave this platform without saying that youth does not only reside in age, it resides in ideas. Right? And let us not forget that.
So one thing, Corey, as you were talking, I'm thinking about, if you sort of look at the things that need to happen, right? There's a recommendation, right? You have to figure out what to do with the Privy Council, right? Then you have a sort of referendum. So all of those, your judicial system, Privy Council, that alone to decouple takes a long time, because there's a lot of processes that need to be changed. And hence, that's why I say, I believe, and I could be totally wrong, that all it's going to happen, we replace the head of state, similar to Barbados, because all of those things that I just mentioned take a very long time, and there's a lot of processes behind it that you would have to change. And 2 years is just not enough time to do all of those things.
Silburn, we
You
can't hear.
muted, Silburn.
Silburn, you mute yourself.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad you guys are reading my lips, because Matunda was able to come forward. You were able to read it as well, so I was testing you guys very well, very well, very well. Matunda, that clear point there about the Privy Council. The Privy Council is a easier work, isn't it, than the referendum?
Oh yeah, it's far easier in terms of procedure. The last time we tried it, the year doesn't stick in my head, but I think the PNP was in power. 3 bills were taken through Parliament. I think it's 2003 or so, and the JLP led an appeal against that. Well, they challenged it at the time, which is their right to do, and the Privy Council said no, because effectively there was no security of tenure for the judges. I mean, I don't agree with that decision, because the Constitution doesn't require it to be so. But it's an easier process to get rid of the appeals to the Privy Council than it is to get rid of the King. No referendum is involved. I think the problem is really a political one. I think the problem is a political one. Not. I don't think Jamaicans are overly keen on keeping the vestiges of a former relationship that we have. I mean, every judgment, I keep telling people, every judgment of the Privy Council ends with the following lines. The board will advise His Majesty to do X, Y, Z. Now, that to me sounds as if there's something wrong with saying we don't want the king to be head of state, but we want his advice when it comes to our legal affairs. There's something wrong with that in my head. It doesn't compute, and I've always said to people, I don't need to denigrate the judges of the Supreme Court who sit in the Privy Council. They're good judges, but I also think that I know that they're equally competent judges in the Caribbean. I mean, it's just defeating to suggest that you must have and law, as all of us know, is a contextual thing. It's a contextual thing. I mean, when you read the Privy Council judgment, you know you're reading the judgment from a foreign court as much as they are our court, if you like. You know, the language tells it's a foreign court. When they talk about things like in Trinidad or in Jamaica, as opposed to if it was in the region, you would say in the region. I mean, we can do both now. We can do both. I mean, I think a reasonable process should take a year and a half. There's no need to rush it, but at the same time, I'm not suggesting that we should move at molasses pace. I'm not saying that.
So
I quite
yeah, Rosemary, I was gonna pick up. I was gonna come on to you now. Matunda, I think it disappeared. Where is it? Where is it? Matunda,
he's
are you
right
still
there.
there? Are you
I'm
still
here.
there? Yeah, yeah. Well, you have answered the question there. You're saying a year and a half. Matunda is saying 2 years. Corey sort of agree to a certain extent about this process. That shows that the town hall meetings and all those sort of things need to be ramped up. Rosemary, what's your take on these timelines?
Huh. The timelines. So, I feel that in keeping with what Matunda said, as it relates to the absurdity of still maintaining the Privy Council. I mean, as our final court of justice, considering that most of our people can't even get a visa to go to England anyway, or even the cost that's involved in that process. When we have an option in the Caribbean, there are other islands in our region, the CCJ that people are using or that other countries are using. So I feel that there are options there that, we should really then take on those options. And I feel that you can't, like he said, it's easier. It's an easier process than to get rid of the Privy Council than it is for to get rid of the king. So to speak. But when it comes to the timelines, I'm just saying no rush.
Mm,
No rush. Because I think the more, just, the Indians always say they'll do the thing when the time is right.
mm,
When the time is right. The time is going to be right when Jamaicans have enough information, the education has played out as it relates to in every using every media, every particular method and possibility and avenue, not just social media and the newspaper and going to the schools and in the churches and in the communities and wherever you have to. Make we do that no man. We don't have to rush. And we don't
mm.
want it to be something that happen. Somebody say, boy, me never understand that, and me don't know where they might do this. And see them now, then go and go do that there and I feed them business that. No. Our republic, I feel we republic. It has to be
So what?
ours.
So what?
So
Yeah.
so the
Mm.
timeline I'm feeling is don't rush it.
No rush.
No
No rush.
rush.
Well,
No
that
rush.
seemed to be a level of consensus which I've been picking up. There's no rush, and therefore that means at the same time business must be going on as usual. There must be that Leicester. There should be that election, isn't it, for the local government election? That should not be sidestepped by anything now.
Oh
Business should be
Lord
going on.
Timon.
All these different things.
Don't put that in there because
Um,
guess what? That's what we have to make sure that this thing about our republic is not politicized, yeah?
Yes.
Because it's not about one political party or the other.
Yeah.
It's about the way
Yeah,
forward for us as
it's about the people.
Jamaicans.
About the people. Yeah. Lester, we're going. Lester, you're gonna. I put you on the spot there, Lester. Yeah. Lester there.
no, you're not put me on the spot.
No, but
Um,
I mean to say,
you
I've
see,
approached you. I've called
I
you. I've
I'm
asked you.
I understand exactly what you mean. Um, listen, I'm a supporter and a member of the Jamaica Labour Party, right? And I'm a very straight shooter. At this given moment, the Jamaica Labour Party, the People's National Party, is not equipped, is not ready for a local government election. So when the government of the day is in the best position to see that their members can win or possibly win a local government election or a general election, then an election will be called. That is the nature of politics right now. Until the
and
constitution change, you understand me?
yeah.
We can't do anything about that. For a fixed election date, right?
Mm,
As our culture of politics,
mm,
right? We don't we don't want that. The culture of politics. You understand me? For the future and for the benefit and for the improvement of democracy, right? It is the best thing to do to have fixed election dates, right? And I don't think that we should be having two elections. We can have one election day and have the both election decided, right? And next,
Lester,
let me go.
yeah, please go carry on. I want to say something. No, go on, Lester, please. And I'm going to talk about the UK. Yeah.
One of the reasons why I would push for a executive is to have the Senate that will elect as the Senate and not appoint the Senate, because I don't like how the Senate is set up currently. I don't think it acts in the best interest of our people. Once it is elected, I think the best possible persons would be elected to the Senate.
You see, Rosemary and Corey and Matthew, you see what I'm picking up here is all different factors. It's like a jigsaw puzzle. Like Lester made a brilliant point there. Um, from his opinion, is not according to the culture, the local government election won't be called yet. But at the same time, he said it's not. He's not of the view that it is in best interest for the Senate to be appointed, right? And you can see the chop and change in a way whereby we can everybody come together to create this constitution, the fixed term as well, the fixed date for election. Like in the UK, we know we got local government election going to be May 6th, I believe. That is in the countryside, not London as well. That always happens unless something fundamentally happens. I believe personally that the local government elections should take place. But let's just say the point there, it's not in the best interest of the ruling government because they know they're going to lose.
Silver.
That's
What I'm hearing from what Lester just said
Mm,
is that in order to have some sort of constitutional reform, you must also have some sort of ideological reform as well.
mm,
And what underpins any political party is their ideology. You understand me? And you have two things now on the table, which
mm,
is you're batting for Jamaica to become a republic in quick order, and also the bad taste of not having local government elections being called. Now, I can understand where Rosemary's concern would have been, mounted upon, which is, look, how can you now take on this heavy whale when you can't even scale a little sprat? You understand me? Which is a local government election.
mm.
So, we are battling with ideologies and cultures that are really just systemic.
Yeah,
You understand me? It's just
Corey,
systemic.
that's so important.
yeah.
If
I'm
I
gonna, yeah. I'm gonna wrap up now,
No,
and
but
I'm just gonna let.
what on Silver? So
I'm not.
the
I'm
next
not.
thing, Silver.
No, I'm not wrapping up. I'm not wrapping up. I'm saying I'm gonna wrap up shortly. But let's say you can go ahead since you.
Yeah, you see, a next thing, and I really want us to understand this, right?
Yeah.
There's a certain sector of our population, right, even the diaspora, that care about certain things, right?
Mm,
Because of our elevated status, of our education, right? Of our futuristic views, or our wishes. But you see, if you're to go into certain sector of the society and have this conversation,
mm,
you understand me? People will be looking at you with a blank stare, because their day to day, their whole livelihood is not based around these conversations in how we're having it, right?
Brother,
And
what
and,
do you
and,
mean?
thi- and this is and this is very important that we understand this.
What do
yeah.
you mean by
Yes,
that?
I think it's very. May I? Oh, sorry,
Yes.
someone.
Rosie and then
Yeah,
Matunde.
I think that's where a bit of the problem is, because sometimes, we say, it's the bread and butter issue. Is it gonna put food on my table? We still have to speak to people. Not then we don't not speak because it's not gonna immediately put food on your table. But then we have that conversation. We talk about it to say that it's not just somebody say, well, if Jamaica changed to a republic, it going to put food on my table, maybe not overnight. And that's why we can't just change to the republic and just stop there. Change to a republic and then what? And so that's why inherently it can't be just changing the constitution to become a republic and get rid of the king. It's all those other things in there that's gonna be meaningful to
Exactly.
people. Good governance,
Exactly.
right? The corruption to get rid of, not to be appointing people to boards who have no idea about it only because them are with friend, and so on and so forth. A lot of things that's gonna benefit the Jamaican people, so that they can then hold their government to the responsibility and hold them to performing for them, right? And I think oversight committees, all of that stuff, we owe that to the Jamaican people. So when we want to put that into words and talk to the man and on the street and have that discussion with him, how it can work for him, that's a discussion we need to have. Not to say, oh, we know some go say it now, go put fish on him table and bread and butter on him table. So, it not really concern him. No, it's a respect for our people to
Yes.
know that the more we talk with them and the more we are able to answer some of these questions and not just stop at changing it to get rid of the king, then they'll take on the baton and
Yes.
see. They'll
They have
have
to be.
hope.
Yeah.
They'll
They'll have
get
to.
involved. They'll participate. They'll see that I feel we Republic and nobody else.
They need to be inspired. That's power.
They have to
That's
be motivated and
that's very
inspired.
that's very powerful. Let's bring in Matunda there. You're bringing up that point there.
Frankly, I don't need to say anything. Is it Rosemary?
Rosemary.
Rosemary, yeah, it's been there.
She has said all that I wanted to say, and I can only say one thing to add to that. Issues of constitution are not sexy, and it's nothing to do with the Jamaican people um, lacking capacity. It's not a sexy topic. Sid will tell you it's not one of the most favorite topics at law school. It was never, because it's not a very sexy thing. And so it's the responsibility of leadership to make this thing relatable to the everyday life. Governance must be related to the experience of the citizen. It has to. It has to be. So I don't buy this argument that somehow it's 20 feet above everybody else's head and only some people can participate in it. Governance is a citizenship issue, and every citizen must be shown and must be given enough information to make them want to be an active citizen. An active citizen doesn't necessarily mean you become an MP, you become a mouthpiece for a political party. It simply means that you know where to go when something is wrong, where you live. That's all an active citizen needs to do. That's it.
I can
Can I
say
interject
that.
something quick?
Go, Rosemary. Yeah,
Before,
I got to
because
wrap up. Yeah,
thank
go
you
on,
so much,
Rosemary.
Matunda. Well, and Matunda, like you said, it doesn't have to be up here. But if there are those of us who are thinking, it's up there, then bring it down now. Let's
Yeah.
have live coverage of these discussions that are going on with the commission right now. Right? Let Jamaican hear what them talking about now and see how the debates are going as they're coming up and discussing, what these resolutions are probably gonna be and so on. Let's have the minutes. All right. And not everybody can sit and read through all the minutes. Well, do it live.
Stream it. The,
Stream
the,
it.
rev- the
Get
revolution
us
shall
all
be streamed.
involved in it.
The revolution shall be streamed. But listen, and I find out I got to wrap up now. But one thing I did my little tests, and I've spoke to a few Jamaicans here and in Jamaica, and what start off with, Silburn, this don't make no sense. What you all do for it? And they all say the same thing. Most of them say the same thing. And after chatting with them for a while and being patient and dealing with it in a bit, they say, this is what they said. Yeah, but we need to understand They all said we need to understand. We need to know the pros and the cons. And that's what I was saying to you, Rosemary, when I reach you. We need the pros and the cons so people can understand. I believe that the authorities in Jamaica, in a way, believe that Jamaicans are fully done. I'm going to say that. They think that we're fully done and full in this. And I believe that a lot of Jamaicans are very keen on this. I watched the town hall meeting the other day. I listened to some of the articulation by some of the people in the audience. And it is right. And I've drawn the conclusion as well that this is not something can be done in a month, 2 months, maybe 2 years, if anything, and really go through the full process. I believe that even the guys them that they take with them raft in a Oche, whether it was illegal or what, they were doing things bad, sit down and talk with them. Sit down, what thing that really going on in Jamaica? Sit down on a corner and chat with them. And I tell you, brethren, we can able to chat with our own Jamaican people. No matter who they are, no matter where they're from, we must be able to sit down and chat with them. That's my view. I don't care what anybody say. Lester, I'm not here still. Go on, talk.
Silver.
Yeah.
I mean, to that specific incident with the Otrius with the White River.
No, I'm not going. No.
No.
Stop for a second. I just used that as an example. I could have used the other example.
I know.
Wait, no, Lester, man. Wait, no. I'm not going to go into that as to the left or to the right or the wrong. I just grabbed on a set of people. I could have used. Hold on. I want to let you speak. I could have used the people in Kingston that the authorities kicked their carts over and then food on the ground because they're doing in the wrong place at the wrong time. All I was simply saying right there is that every single Jamaican, even the man in a prison, need to understand this thing. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying they're right or wrong, Lester.
But Silver,
yeah.
All right,
if you allow me to finish my statement.
Do you think they knew the right but still chose to do the wrong because it put food on them table? That is a question to you, Silver. So when you're pulling things out to use as point of reference, try to think about the underpinning. Is it an individual who's trying to feed a family knowing that it is wrong, but still do it nonetheless? So in the context of a republic and drawing reference, moving forward, advancing the conversation beyond petty tit for tat, it is, guess what? Everybody needs to be on the same page, understanding what is the pros and the cons. Simple. No need for slight things, right?
But thank you, Corey, because I wasn't going to use the specific. I was going to say the White River issue, along with many other issues that we have seen.
Yeah.
There has been dialogue. It's just that said, the general public don't know that there have been continuous dialogue and sensitization to these groups. And as Corey said, they still choose to do the wrong thing because they might eat a food.
I do not disbelieve that, but I was talking about something fundamentally different from that, Lester. Yeah, totally different from that. All I was simply saying is that every single Jamaican needs to be engaged with the process. That's all I was simply saying. I use a sector right there to say that these are persons that maybe people will not approach. That's all I was simply saying. That's why I went down that level there. I love, listen, every single Jamaican, I don't care. I will stand up for them and I'll speak up for them. And I will never belittle them. I'll never look down on them. And I've spoken to people in Jamaica and them say, them are idiot, them not have no sense, them are do things wrong. There's a lack of disrespect to our Jamaican people. And we turn our nose upon them and we look down upon them no matter what. And that's my view.
You should talk. Yeah, man. You should talk
to them.
Yeah, man.
Yes.
Yeah, man. Reason with them.
Reason with them. Come down, sit down and let us reason. That's my view.
And them have some nice ways to explain the thing to, you know.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
Anyway.
Yeah, man.
Somebody said no dialogue.
You reason with them. That's probably have soup reason with them. It will be a different thing.
No, me can't reason with them. It's like watching man, you know, it doesn't become a chat this way, but me can't reason with them. Me can't talk to my people. I know.
Yes, Lester. It's good sense to have good reasoning, regardless of what. And as Rosemary said, if you up there, so bring it, come right.
Bring it come right now. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
All right, guys.
Yeah.
All right, celebrate. Reason with it.
Yeah, man, we reason. Reason with our Jamaican people. See, I got my Jamaican flag and I got my UK flag. Both of them right here, sir.
And don't forget a Fury Republican.
And you got your Jamaican shirt. Well, let's.
I'm a flag.
Rosemary, you got your flag. And Matunda, it's in your eyes.
Oh, it's all right.
Listen, listen. I have a Jamaican birth certificate and a passport. You can go on, yeah.
Silver, me get sunburn yesterday now, so me all black right now. Yeah. So, yeah, man. The hardship thereof.
It is wonderful to have the discussion and hear you guys.
The old passport, the old passport, the new one.
Silver, we're gonna e-passport now, you know.
Oh,
we're gonna e-passport now, Silver. Yeah.
I have a Jamaican passport. Yeah.
It's on my laptop, my tablet.
I need to. You see, you guys, you blindside me because my purse not right here for me to show you mine. 23 years now, I'm trying to do without giving up my Jamaican citizenship.
Rosemary, you didn't tell people where you are. Where are you?
I'm in Germany.
There you are. See, none of we there Jamaican now.
Oh.
Everybody, they all about in the world, but guess what? Yard still in our house.
I'm a neighbor, Rosie. I'm a neighbor.
Oh, where are you?
Belmont Road.
In the Red Hills Road.
In the
Belmont Road. Belmont Road.
We're neighbors. We're still close.
I've never been to Belmont Road in my life.
Well, listen, guys. Listen, it was a great discussion, and
yeah, man. I live in Holland.
In Holland. Great.
Yeah. Combination between the youths, the elderlies, and the grandparents. You know?
Yes, we have to link up to make sure that the discussion is going. Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, I want to thank you so much, Matunda. Thank you, Rosemary. Thank you, Corey. Thank you, Blogging God. And I want to thank again the guests tonight, the young people. Shemar Bryan, he apologized for his phone. Asha Richards from the USA, Tara Johnson from the UK, Narika Longbridge, and for all the persons who made their comments as well, which I've read them as well. And I got some ideas of some next other shows with some different sectors. And yes, we'll get all of the guys from Ochi on the Ralph Market. So come on. All right. Public. Matunda, see you guys. See you, Corey. See you, Lester. All right.
Bye.
Peace out. Bye-bye. Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And I remove myself. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for joining tonight. And remember to like and subscribe to the Silburn Show. Those on Instagram, those on YouTube, those on Facebook. Thank you so much. And it was a great discussion with the young people. And there's not much more I can say. Don't want to punctuate it. Don't want to take anything. And also the review from the elders after, because we are now deemed as elders. And when you're elders, you're supposed to guide, but always allow the youth to speak. I want to thank you so much and have a great night, and see you tomorrow. And well, not tomorrow, but next week as well. Okay? See ya. Boom.
Let's go.